live. Every time I do that, I'm like, I gotta get a little intro or something. And like next time, but
It's
then
okay.
I
It's
think
lo-fi.
eventually, yeah, but that's like cope. That's like if you want to try to make excuses. But what I need to do is just build up enough shame and embarrassment at not having an intro that I eventually make one,
I
or a
like it
little
though.
extra free time. Yeah.
Keeps you on your toes. So like we're live right now. Whoa, all right, there's a
Yeah, yeah,
jolt.
yeah. That actually that would be really funny to just like spring it on people. By the way, we're live. Ask them a question. By the way, we're live. The whole last minute you said they're like, what? That'd be kind of cruel potentially too.
I would thought that should be a good gimmick. You know what I mean? Like get
Yeah,
them going.
that's
Yeah.
my thing. My thing will be I always catch people
You
live
never
when they don't
know.
expect it. Yeah, yeah.
Did he hit the button and ding?
Yeah, guess what? We've been live this whole time. That's like it's like a talk show or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like a Columbo reveal when he catches the bad guy or whatever. They'll be like talking in private. He's like, guess
Yeah.
what? The witnesses have been here the whole time. They've heard everything you've said. Everything
Right.
you've said has been a confession.
Oh my goodness. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, in case everyone didn't know, I'm here with Robert Geronimo, who you may have seen around one of the pillars of Alterna with Blood Realm, which is behind you. And
Yes.
that's one thing we'll be talking about because Blood Realm, it's crowdfunding now the new batch of issues, and it's getting up there too. What's it
Yeah.
even going up to? Is it up to like 16 issues or something? Or
Oh, that yeah. We are. Let's see. After this campaign, we're going to be at 18.
okay, yeah, that's awesome. That was something I talked with Pete about. Was that just getting that high? There's even getting to 12 is like a little bit like celebratory, I think, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And yeah, you blew right past 12. You're getting on to 18. And when you get that high, that's like, the lore of the world, the story starts getting bigger and bigger and funner and funner. And
It's
people,
true.
yeah. Does it get funner to write because then you've laid down the groundwork so you can just, does it get easier to write? That's another question I have.
It gets yeah, it gets easier well, to an extent. What happens is the world gets so big, you don't know which thing to focus on now because now you're so excited about different parts of the map, different characters, different races, different monsters. Now you're like, I gotta contain myself because I could get into like a really crazy territory here. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think I know that you can almost get lost in the weeds and you're like, this is awesome. You're like, but this is not the main story that I've wanted to tell.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's fun. Like, because people will go there with you, but you want to keep giving them the main storyline too, because
Right.
they'll kind of be looking around, and be like, wait a minute. Um, yeah.
100%.
And so one thing for the chat, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I was telling this to Robert behind the scenes, but I feel like if I turned off the cameras, it could almost sound like I'm talking to Pete Samedi right now. Like they have a very similar. It's the accent is what it is, and
Yeah.
they're both from New York. So they both got the New York accent. Is it
Yes.
like? Are you like New York City or upstate or what?
I'm
what
New
are
York
you?
City. Yeah,
Okay.
he's I believe I don't know if I think he said he was born in Brooklyn, but he was raised in Long Island if I remember. So
Okay.
yeah, but no, I mean Brooklyn is literally a stone's throw away from where I am in Manhattan, so
Oh, cool. The city life. That's awesome. Is
yeah,
that
to an
like
extent.
kind of? Is it? Yeah. I mean, is there like pros and cons to that? Is it like crazy a little bit, or is it pretty awesome?
Yeah, we just don't know how to relax. That's the biggest thing. We don't know how to
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
I
make
can.
things like this.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of like tradition of artists being very inspired by New York City. I wonder if you
Sure.
take it for granted if you grew up there, but then you just have it inherently. You have that inspiration. But specifically, I know Frank Miller is like that, like very inspired by New York City,
Sure.
and even your boy Zach. He lived in New York City for a while, and
Oh,
just
did he?
yeah, the little ways that it kind of arms you with some aspects. There's one even he sent me a kind of bare bones type script that I was going over and I'm kind of thumbnailing it. And the script said like a limo pulls up in front of some brownstones in New York City. And I'm like, brownstones? What the hell is that? So
What's
I
that?
Googled it. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's like the iconic every New York City street that you see in the movies or Friends or any TV
Yes.
show or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, it's that. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Now they're astronomically expensive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness gracious.
Yeah, what's
But
even happening? You know, one other thing about New York is in the
mhm,
70s, I feel like there's like lore or romanticism around homeless artists that would just squat in like these abandoned buildings. And
yes.
I'm like, dude, I would have done that if I was like a punk in the 70s. That's like badass. But
It's
is that
kind of
even a thing anymore or is it like weird now?
now, no, I would say no, but people like to pretend they are, but they really go home to nice brownstones that mommy and daddy own.
Oh,
So they
yeah.
kind they kind of
Yeah.
pretend, oh, I live, in the street and I do graffiti, but then they go home to this nice brownstone on
Yeah.
the Upper West
That
Side,
that
Upper East
makes
Side.
that makes a lot more sense of like just how the way things would kind of go in kind of a not fun way. Like New York just getting, yeah, more and more like, what do you call it, where it's getting wealthier and wealthier, kicking out poor people, whatever. Um,
Hmm.
and the rent going up and up, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, it's
But
crazy.
there's a famous New York movie that's called Midnight Cowboy. Have you heard of this
Oh
movie?
yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, and it's Dustin Hoffman and then the guy I forget his name right now, John Voight,
John Voight, yeah.
and that was directed by a European guy who had never been to New York before,
Hmm.
and that one gets listed as like a quintessential New York movie,
Yeah.
and people are saying maybe it's because they think like because he didn't take anything for granted because it's like New York just like hits you in the face and then he
Yes.
hadn't been growing up around it, so he's like, we got to shoot this, we got to shoot this, we got to shoot this, and everyone's like,
Mm.
oh wow, like this is a cool. That's when they go, it's like a character in the story, New
Hmm.
York City itself.
Yes, yes. I mean, in essence, the world, in every story it's got to be the city needs to be a character, but the city really is just in itself. It's a crazy character in Manhattan. It's
It's
nuts.
living, it's breathing. I feel like
It,
you could almost spoof that of a guy being like, it's a living city. The
yeah.
city breathes through my lungs. That's actually what that's like Frank Miller style.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah,
He's like,
absolutely.
the city inhales and I exhale. The smoke of the city fills my lungs.
Yes, exactly.
And I am born anew every night.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something strange about growing up in New York and having family. Strange in the sense that I don't know, it makes you be a survivor or become a survivor. There's a survivor aspect of New York. Especially if you really grow up here. There's a lot of transplants who have come in and they like to pretend they're New Yorkers and they've lived here for really just a month or two from Arizona or wherever.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. You deal with different weather conditions all the time. You see things that normal people wouldn't see occasionally. It's an interesting place. It really is. So maybe that is a factor in my storytelling. Who knows? I have no idea. That I never
Yeah.
explored.
I know. I mean, I bet you it is, but it's funny to see like it's like a blind spot. It's like a positive blind spot. I don't know.
Right. Right.
There's like New York. I feel like it could never be a negative. Like I don't know. Like because even if it's like oh it's like too dangerous or homeless people everywhere. The liberals are you go to jail if you try and save someone on the subway whatever. It's
Right.
like still living there is still like going to give you material, going to give you inspiration.
Right.
You know what part of it is just being stacking humans on top of each other. That's
Oh
what it is. Like
yeah.
that's
Sure.
like the city in general, and there is like it can even be like pros and cons of where the inspiration. You can get inspiration from the country, obviously, but when you stack humans on top of each other, that's like weird, and that's kind of weird psychologically too. Like I think they've done tests like that with rats, and it's like the more you
Ah.
stack on top of each other, the weirder they get.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That makes
there's a
sense.
point where it like all breaks down, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's a cool idea in itself, like the idea of like, oh, like if everyone lived really close together, it would be like less resources to make people be able to survive or whatever. Like that's like cities in general and like city planning and like New York's a crazy city for that reason. And there's like ancient historical cities that are like legendary. Like I was researching a little bit of like sewage systems and how far that
Oh,
goes
forget
back.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Rome had some badass sewage systems.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, nice, dude. I'd live in Rome. You're telling me you could take a shit in Rome and not have to like, so whatever, like throw it out the window or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's incredible.
They live like kings.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Speaking of Rome too, the original, the very original, was it not Grand Central? Oh my goodness, shame on me. Was it not Grand Central, but the original? It's oh god, Madison Square Garden is Penn Station. I think the Penn Station is there now.
Yeah.
The original was completely its whole model off of the baths of Caracalla in Rome, and it burned
Oh,
down I think in 1912. But when you look at it, it looks like this gigantic, massive antique Roman structure, but it burned
yeah.
down. But you got to look up pictures. Oh god, was it the original Penn Station? I can't remember. It's been so long. But when you look at it, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't belong in New York City. And it's weird when it contrasts with all of the brownstones.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a mix of everything. Oh, one more thing about New York is like it get kind of tied to movies, but there's the movie. It's Dario Argento's like trilogy about witches, and the first
Oh,
one is like Suspiria. The
Suspiria,
second,
yeah.
yeah, and the second one's Inferno, and the
Hmm.
third one is I think the third one might just be called Mother of Tears, and those are the three.
I
And
didn't
there's
see the
three
third one.
witches. Is like it's about the lore. I mean, it's fun because it barely hints at the lore, but you're like, oh my god, that's awesome. But it's like there were three witches, and there was one architect, and the architect made them each a house. And one house was in like Italy, and one house was in New York, and one house was like somewhere else, a weird spot. I wish I could remember all of them. But the fact that like this is like a 10,000-year-old cult or whatever, that's kind of, and the fact that they choose New York as one of the like the triangle pillars for the spell
Sure.
on the
Well,
earth or
Ghostbusters
whatever.
did that.
Yeah. Nice. So it's out there, yeah. And the house in New York, it's just like it looks kind of like a brownstone. It's just this old house, and
Yeah.
it's like creepy. And I'm like, oh man, that's like so cool. Now that we're talking about, it, I'm like, oh, I want to rewatch. It's Inferno is what I'm thinking of. That's the second one, which is a good one.
Cool.
And I want to talk briefly. So you also did Wirehead, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm glad that's you because I didn't mix it up or something. So, real quick. Well, by the way, guys, we got 11 people watching. Everyone, this looks great. Obviously, all the kind of I've been saying one of Alterna's pillars is Robert Geronimo with Blood Realm. It's getting up to 18 issues, which
Yep.
this would be a fun one. Like literally, just buy all 18. Like it's gonna be epic.
Yeah.
I bet that kind of. Do you know what the average backing is? It might be a little higher than usual because people can do that. You know, when you have more to sell, kind of. Is it
Oh,
like
sure. Yeah.
yeah?
The average per, like, what per person's
Oh yeah,
backing?
no, actually we can do the math because there's 100 backers, so the average backer is $64.83.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah, we can only do that because it's exactly 100 backers, which is nice. So yeah, 64 is a high average. Like I don't know, like for a first campaign when you're just selling the book and you can't sell like a bunch of books, then usually
Sure.
it's like if you're lucky it gets like 40 or so, and then
Right.
like yeah, and then it can get up a little higher. But and are you selling any high ticket stuff like original art or anything or?
I have commissions at the very bottom,
Oh yeah,
right
cool.
there.
Sketch cover
So
commissions.
sketch cover commissions, and at the very bottom, I'm doing a 15 by 20 commission on nice big
Okay,
illustration
and you
board
got
of
one of
any Blood
those
Realm character.
claimed. Sweet. And
Yeah.
is this Christian Rossi or you or both or who's doing
The
the?
art,
Yeah.
that's me in those images
Okay.
there. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm,
Cool.
yeah, that's all my
So
artwork on the
you're
right
an
side.
artist too. Would you say you're more like are you 50-50? Are you more an artist or more a writer? Or...
I would say, oh, that's a good question. I would say it's an even split, but mostly, I would maybe 60, 70, 30 maybe for artist or writer. The
Okay.
reason I'm getting other artists here is because we go into different time periods. I'm still illustrating parts of it as well, and it's just a huge story. And I have to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't be able to. It would take forever for me to do this by myself.
Yeah.
It's 32 pages per issue, so we're
Yeah.
looking at like 200 pages of story content, and I want to get a couple of these out a year. So it's nice
Yeah.
to get a little help, for some of the artwork.
Definitely. I agree with that. And yeah, that's cool that you're the artist also. Did you draw Wirehead then? I want to talk about Wirehead for a second here.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not, only because at that time I designed Wirehead and did all the sketches for the concept art and passed it off to the artist for them to work off that. But I just at the time I was knee deep in a whole mini series in Blood Realm, so I had to be realistic and say I can't do this. The two.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cause so Wirehead is great. That's one I
Oh,
have
thank
read.
you.
I haven't read, I don't think I've read any Blood Realm yet, but I will. I'll be checking this out for sure. I've been wanting
Oh,
to.
awesome. Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, but so Wirehead caught my eye. So the one thing about Wirehead is it has stuck with me, which is awesome. Like only like 5 books have stuck with me, like because you'll read them and then whatever you rate them, even out of 10, or not that everyone does. I don't even do that, but say you did,
Yeah.
whatever their score, it's kind of a different metric of whether or not they stick with you. And Wirehead, like the iconic character, and also I did love the fact that it's like it was straight up slasher. Like it was not like slasher mixed with something else
Right.
and my own personal twist on it
Right.
and blah blah blah. It's like no. This is a slasher story.
Yes.
Like, it followed
Yes.
like every trope, every like formula. But
I'm
that's like what
enjoying it.
was yeah, that was what was so fun about it.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, so I thought that was really impressive and cool.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, the Wirehead's not finished, so there will be one more little story in Wirehead for sure.
Yeah, cool. And that one is not through Alterna though. That's another funny like
Yeah, that was
thing.
my little off project, but I know Pete is very interested in Wirehead, so we have talked about maybe releasing a giant-sized collection of it, and then after that possibly doing the sequel.
Oh, nice, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for that if that ever happens or whatever the re-release. I don't know how good I'm sure it kind of released when things were popping off pretty good for indies, if I recall. I don't know if it's like
Yes.
2020, yeah, like the golden
Yes,
age or whatever.
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, so you always hope, you always want to reach as big an audience as possible. Sometimes you wonder too, it's like, oh, if I re-release it offer a second chance, it's like, is the demand high enough to justify that? Or like, could we get another, like at least
Right.
100, because sometimes it kind of slowly, because, sometimes if you launch it and release it and it's like, everyone's like, yeah, I already backed that one though. They're like, I love it, but I already backed
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Well,
shoot, we got to reach like new people somehow or something.
yeah, the incentive would probably be for Wirehead if for the giant that Pete's talking about. I would like to add a couple of extra pages that personally for me I could not put in at the time because it's expensive to print these comics in a nice quality little
Yeah.
trade. So I was like, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to take a couple of pages out, but you know. I'm open to putting those in, and this way the giant will be like this director's cut in a sense.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I forget when it wasn't too long ago. I was kind of going through some of my comic collection and just seeing what I had, and Wirehead popped up, and I
Oh,
immediately I was like, oh, this is a good one. Like this is like,
oh,
if I
yeah.
had to purge, I would definitely like Wirehead would keep making the cut, and if
Oh,
I eventually I'll organize my shelves and be like, all right, these are the ones that have like really stuck with me that are like, and it is like the commitment to the bit a little bit of like this is a slasher thing, that was
yes.
I was thinking about that the other day. This is like a thing your boy Zach says. He has a few like your boy Zachisms that I've really tried to like treat it almost like I want that working with him should influence me a little bit. It'll be like in these ways. And so one of them is he always says commit to the bit. He says that in his YouTube videos too. That's one thing he'll critique if it's like a crappy Marvel book he's ripping on or whatever. He's like they didn't commit to the bit. Commit to the bit. He always says that. And then the other thing is he says don't be galaxy brained with it, which also Wirehead does not fall for that trap either. That's kind of a little bit like committing to the bit. It's like this is a slasher story. Like it feels like it could be a movie. Wirehead kind of but like Galaxy Brain. I'm trying to think like I do accidentally have tendencies towards that where like. Ooh, the audience is gonna love this. I'm gonna trick them and switch them and do this, but then this is happening. It's gonna be like this,
Right.
and a lot of times your boy Zach is like, "What are you doing? Like,
What are you
stop."
doing? You're losing track of what you're doing. What you started out to do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then they'll say like, you know, I don't know if it was like, if it's like, yeah, refocusing, like the story's supposed to just be like a revenge story or whatever. You don't need to get all
Right.
crazy with what you're doing
The
with
simplicity.
this.
Some people have a hard time with the simplicity. It's really interesting. You know, when I teach too, I have students do. All right, listen, we're going to do a one-page story, 5 panels, and they're like pulling their hair out. They're freaking out. Ah, what
Yeah.
can I tell in 5 panels? That's nothing. That's nothing. I'm like, you'd be surprised what you can tell in 5 panels. You can do a powerful one-page story in 5 panels,
Yeah.
and the simplicity, the constraint, they feel the need to go off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's like, I think one thing is like, you gotta kind of relax knowing that, yeah, you're not gonna tell like a Shakespeare thing. Like it's a five
Yes.
panel story. So once you relax, then you can like tell it. It's funny with comics too, is like they have anything is possible. You can literally draw anything, and sometimes that will be like against the instinct of simplicity because you can draw
Hmm.
anything. And obviously, there's like pros and cons. And this is a Peter Simeti-ism that I like a lot. But
Hmm.
he says you should write a comic that can't be made into a movie. Like
Yes.
it, and I was like, that's cool. Yeah, that is cool. But then and then doing, if you can keep simplicity and also do that, that is like really special. You're being extra weird or whatever. Because
Sure.
I one thing I've noticed is that uh, I kind of was, before comics, I was kind of into movies, like learning to write screenplays and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And some of that coming over, I do value it as like the way writing movies is like legitimately the hard. I think it's like the hard, one of the hardest things, because it's harder than comics in a I think basically in almost every way, because of the limitations of the budget. Where like
Sure.
if you're gonna try and make a movie, you're like, okay, you have one house and you
Hmm.
have three actors. Like, good luck. Can you even write anything that's like not going to be terrible? Like,
Right.
and you're like, I don't even know. So like, but you have to like study a lot of how other people have done it and figure out ways to that
Sure.
it might work or whatever. But if you can do that, those skills carry over, of like where it does get less intimidating. Of like, oh yeah, we can make like two people alone in a room. We can make that
Hmm.
entertaining or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah. See,
yeah,
I
and that's a
value.
well,
Yeah. I value the
well,
simplicity, and it's almost like with storytelling. You know, can you tell a story without words first? You
oh
know,
yeah,
that's really important. So you could say the same about film, right? With the simplicity, right? The power of the imagery. Excuse me. You know,
yeah.
it's that's the stuff that really moves everything along.
Yeah, yeah, and Wirehead is like that too. It kind of feels deliberately limited in some in the scope, you know, of
Yes.
like, and all that is like really fun.
I'm
You
so happy you
mentioned you
enjoyed it.
teach.
Oh
Yeah, yeah, that's
yes,
cool. So you're a
yes,
teacher.
yes.
Yeah, do you teach in New York City? That's
I
cool.
do. I do. I teach in a couple of colleges here in New York City. So I'm a professor by day, comic artist by night.
Yeah, that there's a few of those. That's a good archetype.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about, there's a community college in my town, and they
Hmm.
said you can pitch. I needed to look into it more, but they, because I did a recent convention called SquatchCon, and they were there for like a job market kind of thing, and they were just saying hi to everyone. And
Mm.
the lady mentioned, she's like, yeah, you can pitch a class, like it becomes a community class. It's not really like the college class, but then people can
Oh.
sign up for it, and we give you the space, and you know, I
Oh,
think
very
maybe
cool.
they take maybe most of the money or something. But and then she's
Interesting.
like, yeah, it might be like a 5 week thing, and you meet twice a week, so it's 10 classes and blah blah blah. She's like, you
Hey.
could pitch anything if you know, if you're if it's, I think the idea being like, if you set it up with an actual kind of cool curriculum that you're pitching, then they're like, yeah, go for it. Well, and then they see if maybe how many people sign up, if you can get 20 or
Sure.
whatever, or even 10. But I was like, dude, I'll do that.
Good.
I'll try and do that and teach some
Should.
stuff.
Oh yeah. Why not? Why not? You've been making
Yeah.
comics, right?
Yeah. I'll teach the 5 panel thing. That's what I'll do. I'll steal your curriculum.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And I'll make everyone read Wirehead.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that'd be a fun, like, not, it's not exactly like a grift, but if professors just made students buy their friend's book, and every professor was doing it to
That would
every
be
other.
great, and everyone's just, we're all just, benefiting in some way. as
Yeah.
opposed to being underpaid.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's the future. That's the secret.
It is the secret. I like that. I like that a lot.
Um, by the way, people have been filtering in. So we're at 17 people watching. Thanks everyone for being
Oh,
here,
wonderful.
chatting with Robert Geronimo. Who it's great to finally talk with you, Robert. And you've been
Yeah.
around, and we've been chatting about Wirehead. So I'm like literally a fan because of Wirehead. And then Blood Realm,
Thrilled
I've
to
been
hear it.
wanting to like check it out.
Hmm.
But you see it, it's like I've been saying it's like a pillar of Alterna, but this is definitely one of the standout Alterna titles, and not only because it's like striking and cool title, cool art and everything, but
Hmm.
just the fact that it's up to 18 issues is very like kind of impressive and fun, I think.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
It's I love it. I love it. And that's the thing. It's like every time I think I'm ready to end it, I'm like, oh, but I could make the ending even sweeter if I just tell these stories now to build up to it. So, who knows? Pete wants me to get to 100. We'll
Oh,
see.
nice.
We'll
He's
see.
thinking about doing that for King
Cryptid.
Cryptid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then it is like it at least right now. I'm not because I need to actually look at Alterna, but it kind of feels like King Cryptid and Blood Realm are like the Batman and Superman kind
Of
of
Alterna. I'm
yeah,
honored.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we can talk a little more about it. Is it
Sure.
because we actually haven't dug too deep into this yet? We've been chatting 26 minutes. We chatted about New York City for like 10 minutes. That was kind of fun chat. If you
That
missed it,
was. That was.
yeah. So and also it's doing pretty good, which is awesome. I hope it will reach the goal easily, but it might smash its goal a little bit, which
Oh,
is good.
well. Hey, listen, we pray it does. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, I know it's dangerous. You don't want to jinx yourself,
I never
and
want
yeah,
to.
yeah, I know. I was
That's the
like, what if
thing.
you just like, what if you just tried to just did the opposite and just jinxed yourself as much as possible? Jinx yourself so much that it comes back around the other way, and you get like
Oh.
unjinxed. Maybe
Okay,
that.
so
I'll
saying I'll
try
never
that.
make it. I'll never make it. I'll never make it. You're saying.
Yeah. So like I'll test this one. So I'll launch one and I'll be like, all right, guys, if this doesn't hit 1 million, I'll be super disappointed because this is extremely deserving of 1 million. And then
And then
people will
you'll
be like,
make
what?
900, 900,
Yeah, yeah,
999.
yeah, yeah. Maybe it'll make like 50,000. People are like, dude, you failed miserably. I'm like, well, 50,000. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, see, that's a good point. Because it
Yeah,
could only look up from there at that point.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
They go reach for the stars so that even if you
Right.
miss, you'll grab the moon or something like that. It's like
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
grandma line.
The
Yeah.
grandma line.
Yeah. Down goes solo. Do you get paid if enough people sign up? I think this is like, I guess, yeah, like I'm a little curious about that. Is like, this is
Mm.
almost like an independent publishing thing that you do and then it goes through Alterna. Is that
Oh,
correct
I
for
think
me?
he's talking about for your community thing for the signups. When you were talking about the
Um,
community class.
oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry. That's a while back. Yeah. Down goes solo. Yes, I would have to make enough people sign up. And it's like brick and mortar, so you wonder who's around who likes comics. It's like online you can
Sure.
find hundreds, but then you're
Yes.
like, well, in town there's like three. You're like, oh, and they're like
Yes.
me, like they want to teach, they don't want to be a student.
Right.
We
That's
could
a
all
good
just
point.
teach each other. I
Yeah.
met I met a puzzle maker this morning who like makes wooden puzzles, and he has a tiny little saw that's like a sewing machine, and he's in there just like cutting out every single little puzzle piece, and it looks like a real puzzle, but it's like kind of thick, awesome wood,
Mm.
and it was really cool. And he's like, "Yeah, there's a huge puzzle community." I'm like, "Oh, nice. That's like comics or whatever."
A
It's
puzzle
like it's all like
community. Wow.
carpenters that like have kind of retired and now they just want to make puzzles.
They want to
And
do
he's like,
something
"Yeah,
fun now.
yeah." And he said they meet in there's different meetups, but one of them is they meet in New York and they do like a White Rabbit type thing where everyone makes if there's 13 of a meeting, everyone makes 13 of one special kind of puzzle that
Right.
and then they give one of each to everyone. So you come
Wow.
with 13 of one puzzle and you leave with one of 13 individual amazing puzzles.
Interesting. All
Yeah,
right.
and all the innovations on it were crazy. Like they'll get really tiny. There are ones made of metal. There's one made of
Mm.
metal that was tiny. Then they also gives you a magnifying glass and tweezers and black felt, so you can assemble it with
Oh
like
my goodness.
yeah.
That's
And it's
hardcore.
like yeah, I'm like and making it is like kind of crazy. However, he pulls that off, and then I think it might cost like at least $200. It's for a little baggie, like of that
Mm.
it all goes in there. And so I'm like,
Wow.
wow, like, but if you get into it, like, but there's ways that it overlaps with comics. I forget exactly why I was getting into that, but just the fact
Mm.
that they have a community, and even with their style, where they're like innovating and they're picking their workflow and their tools, how that
Hmm.
affects like their product, all that stuff kind of fits over with comics a little bit.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Hey, listen, everyone has some type of little right little hobby that they love. Why did I have to love comics? That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Why did I have to love this so much?
yeah. You're like, I'm in it now. I'm stuck. Have you heard of the what's it called, the sunken cost fallacy?
No.
That's like, well, I guess in related to comics, if it's like if you're like 40 or something and you've kind of been doing comics for 20 years, and
Hmm.
you're just like, I can't quit now because I've been doing it 20 years. And you're
Yeah.
like, I should just quit though. You're like, I can't. I've been doing it 20 years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't quit now. But yeah, I don't know. With comics are a little bit like that for sure.
Oh yeah. It's
Um,
also like the mob, you know. They pull you back in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you could line up a little escape, then maybe
Yeah.
you would. But it always comes back.
The love comes back.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but 17 people watching, and yeah, we're gonna start talking a little bit about Blood Realm. So how about like to give me the kind of quick pitch, and then maybe we'll do a longer pitch too.
Oh sure. Yeah, it's a dark fantasy comic series, and it follows different groups of humanoids. We have humans, goat warriors called Satrians, Cyclops, and mages. And they're essentially all vying for power over the lands of Mordrin. And we see different perspectives of those wars, of those different factions and groups of humanoids. And sometimes we go in the future, we go into the past. But that's what it really revolves around is these groups here, these different humanoids all battling it out for this main city called Voragoth, which is kind of like it's almost like an ancient Rome, it's like the center of everything. So everyone's trying to get Voragoth at some point.
Nice.
That's
Yeah,
a short pitch.
that already sounds awesome. I like the concept of it being that it's just kind of following a war kind of
Yeah.
thing. Those kind of stories are cool.
Hmm.
Um,
And we
yeah.
go back in time. The big creatures are almost like these prehistoric. They're like dinosaurs to us, basically. So these were the creatures that used to exist during, I would say, the prehistoric age. And
Cool.
now there's no more left at this point in the series.
And is this the kind of fantasy where like there is no Earth? It's like the Blood Realm is the deal, and
It's called the Lands of Mordrin, and there's a whole map of the world.
okay, yeah, yeah, cool. That's like a lot of fantasies like that. I guess it's not like isekai, I guess, where it's like one guy goes from Earth into the Blood Realm and then
Oh yeah,
fights.
no, definitely no Earth. Yeah,
Yeah,
but inspired by history. I'm an art history teacher, so history
oh,
is just
cool.
something I'm so incredibly inspired by. So I just kind of incorporate all those things that I love into this. So of
Yeah,
course, being someone who went to Rome and studied Roman art for so long, I was like, I have to include some type of amphitheater in there.
nice. You know what else? So this is Christian Rossi, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
He's
that's
he's
Christian.
kind of another Alterna all star, great artist. But one thing I love about this is check out this crowd. Like
Yeah,
that is not being lazy. Like sometimes people
no.
find, including me, we're all guilty, whatever, of finding shortcuts of how to not draw the crowd. You know what I do actually? My number one trick is to kind of go low angle, put the crowd at the bottom of the page in silhouette, and just have
Oh
some
sure.
hands.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, he
But
nailed it. He nailed it.
yeah, that's a lot of fun. You feel the energy. You feel that the people there.
Hmm.
Um, that is awesome. So yeah, and did you say it's dark fantasy is like the genre?
Yeah, dark fantasy. Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Cool. Is it like there's when you say that, I'm like, Fiendish is kind of like that. Have you followed
Uh,
Rini's book at all?
I
Or?
have not read it, but I've seen the art. I would say this is darker than that. Her reminds me a little bit of, I would say almost like D&D fantasy, a little bit, like little like I don't know. It seems lighter from the artwork I've seen. So, that's not to discredit her. I just mean like this is a little bit, I would say, maybe more intense. I'm not sure what the right word would be.
Yeah, it's more like red, more like bloody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And they
that
have different. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I was just saying that's sweet. This is dope.
Yeah, this is the vinyl. So I did the artwork for the front and the back. There's an orchestral soundtrack. It's pretty intense, pretty epic.
Nice. Um, but yeah, so I just even like thinking about fantasy and dark fantasy. I'm like, there isn't too much of it. So this is a good, like almost like an angle on the marketing. I'm like anyone. Rini's book is super popular, so I'm like, if you like dark fantasy, check Blood Realm out too. Treat him as like a, what do you call it, a double feature. That's
Oh,
what
yeah, that's a good way
I
to
would
do
do.
it.
Yeah. What's up with the vinyl though? So there's music to go with the.
Yes, a buddy of mine. He's more of the musician, but we sat down. He's very talented, and we said we always wanted to collaborate on something. And I said, you know what? I said let's sit down and let's mess around and make some type of soundtrack for Blood Realm, and we'll
Yeah.
press it on a vinyl. So it took a while, in between, work, and he's a musician, so he's like, traveling all over the place for gigs. We eventually finished it, and yeah, they're actually being pressed and sent over to me very soon.
Cool.
Limited to
That is
100.
very intriguing. I would love to offer a vinyl on one of my campaigns. So he's the one, he has all the hookups to press it. And do you have to like charge a premium probably to make it work? But I mean, provide premium just means like, I, I guess it can't be like super cheap. It's not like it's $10
It's
or
not
whatever.
too bad. I mean, it's a 7-inch vinyl. It's so it's 25.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's not crazy.
Yeah,
How
it's not
is
too crazy.
does it is he knows the who can make them or whatever he's doing it or do you
Oh no,
know?
he had given me some recommendations, so I spoke to a few of them, and this one particular one worked out for the schedule because they have to know way in advance a couple of them.
Oh yeah, but and then
So
you made that happen, man. That's cool. That's
yeah, I
fun.
figured why not?
I would like definitely. I'm very tempted to get that one into maybe
Oh,
like
thank you. Well, I'm doing only 100 printing, and they're going pretty fast, pretty fast.
cool. Oh, that is cool, man. The
Yeah.
vinyl, yeah, and it's red. Sweet.
Yes.
Hail the Lore asks a good question. How is it
Oh,
compared to Berserk? And I have another question too. Is like, how does it compare to Game of Thrones? We're kind of just going through fantasy because when you
okay.
mentioned it's like a war where everyone's vying, I'm like, is it kind of like Game of Thrones, like multiple plot lines and multiple
Yes.
characters? Okay,
Yes, definitely multiple plot lines. In one miniseries, we'll see the perspective of the mage people. In the first miniseries, we could see the perspective of the humans on their side. So, and what's interesting is that when the goat people are illustrated very creepy looking and monstrous looking in the first miniseries, or I would say the first 3 issues, and then 4 to 6, we see them a little bit more humanized in a weird way. They're still monsters, but now it's from their perspective. So
oh,
now, yeah, so they
cool,
don't look as like, their fangs and teeth aren't so distorted, because the
yeah,
first one it's always in some type of first person perspective. And then the next one, now it's in their perspective. So now they don't look as, I mean, they're still creepy looking. I mean, it's goat people, but now maybe the fangs and the jaws aren't as exaggerated there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And looking at these covers, they're all striking and cool. But
Oh,
even this
thank
one
you.
of the girl, that
Yes.
definitely, I'm like, what? There's a princess? What? There's a hot princess in the story? That's awesome.
There it is. It's in the latest miniseries, so we do have a love interest that takes place in this
Nice.
particular one. So it gets pretty epic and heartbreaking too. I mean, you got to put your characters through hell. You know what I mean? For the people
Oh,
that respond.
totally. Yeah, yeah. You know all the, you know what you're doing. I can tell this from Wirehead, but I'm
Oh,
excited
thank you.
to check out Blood Realm. A few more. Yeah. So Elvalor was talking about Berserk. So I guess
Right.
Berserk wise, is it like, are you inspired by Berserk?
I did not grow up reading Berserk. It wasn't until much later I read a couple of issues and I thought it was beautiful and gorgeous. But I would say equivalent. My readers have been telling me that there's Berserk similarities in terms of like the weightiness of some of the themes. I've been told.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of Berserk readers, but it's something I have to really just try to find the time to get into. A lot of people told me I would love it.
Nice. What are then like some influences that you would cite as you're going into Blood Realm when you're like writing it and thinking of it and stuff?
Oh, sure, sure. Well, the biggest influence. What you mean visually, or do you mean
Both,
or
but like even like dark fantasy, like story style, world style, or whatever.
okay, yeah. Mainly, I have to say, to be quite honest, it's really like stories from the ancient past. Like I love the Iliad. I love
Oh,
Shakespeare. Like Macbeth is just it's so brutal, Macbeth, and my goodness, I mean, Lady Macbeth is the villain. I'm really intrigued by that stuff, and also being someone who I'm an art historian, and I'm just obsessed with medieval art. I'm just obsessed with that stuff, and like
yeah.
there's just this interesting vibe in medieval art because you have these saintly figures, and you have like themes of the apocalypse and themes and imagery of hell. It's the powerful eternal theme of good and evil. You see this in the art, but it's so I don't know something about medieval art that just hits differently than Renaissance. It's very intense, very
Yeah,
exaggerated. So you
it's
know,
I think supposedly, yeah, it's like Renaissance was like they started getting more into perspective. So medieval
yes,
art, it's kind of more graphic,
yes, more
in a way.
graphic, distorted, abstract, and it's just the bodies look elongated sometimes, and that's something that I always found very striking. And oh, excuse me, of course the phone goes off right now. You believe that?
Oh, yeah, no worries. Yeah. What else? If you gotta take it, no problem either. Let me know. But oh yeah, he did take it. Okay. He'll be back. Bob. I'm gonna ask him. Bob, I like the name Bob. Bob, what's up? Yo, Bob. I'm gonna ask him this in a second because I'm curious too. But I'm getting to a few more questions. Paul de Pochetta. There's a
Okay, yeah, sorry
morality in the
about that.
storytelling. Oh, no problem. This is apart from your usual sword and sorcery. These are different characters in each volume allows for focus on different themes. Oh, Paul Butcheda has read.
Hey, Paul, my man.
Yeah, he's a fan. That's awesome. And this is cool. This is good feedback and good stuff. Um, Shoot, I had one question. It's not terribly important. I wonder what I was going to ask. It doesn't matter. But there's another good question is from Bob, and he goes, "Is there going to be a trade paperback?"
One day, one thing I know Pete has mentioned before that he sees that there is this demand for trade paperbacks coming back. So we could totally see that one day. I mean, there are what do we call? He calls them giants, and they're collections of the volumes. Usually
Yeah.
they're 3 to 4 issues in each. So you can absolutely check on alterna.com or here to get some of those if you like your collected versions.
Oh, so and those they do have that now. Is it they are
Yes.
giants?
So if you see the
Oh,
back issue bundle right there to the right, you could see the bottom two covers on the right side, all the way on the right where it says to the
right
right.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, those two are collected editions of 4 to 6 and 7 to 9.
Okay. Oh, cool. So those are almost like trades, kind of. Like
Yeah,
the.
yeah, but they're floppies, thick floppies.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. That's actually cool too. Yeah, I was wondering, like, are you talking about like the phone books that like Cerberus would do, or Cerebus? Like he would release 27 issues in one phone book, and like that was kind
Wow,
of interesting
really?
too. Yeah, and that like that it's weird. It would work okay for a newsprint, which is what like alternate because that's like what Cerebus was like too. But I think
Mm,
it could be weird if it's not newsprint because it would just get so thick and ungainly. So I don't like reading super thick books at a certain point. It's
sure, sure.
like
Yeah.
they did the Bone release of like everything, and I've still never read it. I bought it because I'm like I got to read this. Supposedly it's a
I know
classic.
I haven't either. I have it too. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
have to
because it's so
also.
big, and I'm like, how do you even read it or whatever?
I know, I know. And it made me think of another thing that I was saying before, other things that inspired me. It wasn't just the art, also, I'm a big fan of pulp magazines, and I
Oh yeah.
collect a bunch of them. And Conan the Barbarian, those old stories. I just love
Oh,
that
cool.
stuff. I love that stuff. So that plays into it as well. Obviously, I'm a big fan of mythology, biblical stories as well. All of it, all of that stuff just kind of
Yeah.
comes into.
Well, nice. And that is an interesting specific response that's a little bit original. It's a little bit different than
Mm.
what I would have expected to
Oh,
hear
wow.
even. That's cool. I think kind of curating even like kind of your own influences a little bit is kind of a fun way to set yourself apart kind of in your work. And
Sure.
yeah, for you, if it's like focusing on like some of that history aspect,
Oh, I
a
love
little
it.
extra, and the legends and lore, and obviously a deep love for like Conan the Barbarian. As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that makes sense. Right.
And with yeah, with with medieval art, I was gonna say there's one. It's like a meme, but so I don't even know. You can confirm or deny, but is
Hmm.
it true that they couldn't draw cats in medieval times?
They do look very strange, I have to admit.
Yeah.
It's funny. I see someone mentioned it too. Yeah,
Oh
the
yeah.
cat drawings are very strange, and not just cats too. Also, I mean, you look at like babies then, or the infant Christ or anything like that. He kind of looks like a ventriloquist doll during that time. It's really interesting. And then all of a sudden you go to Da Vinci, and all of a sudden it's like boom, you have a nice normal chunky baby. It's like what happened? How do we
Hmm.
just get from that to that? It's so interesting. It's
Yeah,
like,
that is sweet. Yeah, and that is funny. But it's like the it's people were saying like, do they? This is what happens when you don't use reference. That's the meme. If they show like a medieval cat. I'm like, if they would have just like grabbed a cat. I think there's other times too. They're like,
well,
it's like they go down to Africa or whatever for the Crusades, and they come back and they're like, yeah, I saw this one thing, and
he's
the guy's like
describing it.
describing it. Yeah, and the other guy's like, did it
It's
look
like
like
that's
this?
crazy.
Yeah. So what are you saying? Yeah, like it
Yeah,
had giant ears and a giant
I know.
nose, and they
You,
draw
you,
like
you know what's
spooky or
crazy
something.
though, and this is why I love medieval art so much, is that they wouldn't be really allowed to make it too realistic, because then you were mimicking God. You know what I mean? That was the whole
Oh,
theme. So it was an intentional thing, which I find so cool because they're forcing themselves to come up with a whole new visual style, which is really
yeah,
hard. And their instinct is to draw something as it appears, but they're
yeah,
forcing themselves not to set it apart from ancient Greece and ancient Rome, which is what they would do. They would draw things very naturalistically.
yeah.
And at the
That
same
is
time, it
awesome.
takes, right, isn't that really interesting? And I love about it too, with medieval art, it feels otherworldly because nothing seems exactly right. There is this otherworldly look to it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big influence for me.
And is it sometimes with medieval, it's like it because they call it the Dark Ages, kind of because it is like harder to find like the records or whatever.
They
And even
call
like if it's like Celtic stuff, some of that is like not. I don't know if it's Celtic specifically, but it's not. What do you call it? Where they wrote anything down? So you're like, well,
No, that's interesting. No, they actually call it the Dark Ages because it rejected the ideals of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, which philosophers at that time thought it was the light. So if you're going to
okay,
deny the styles of ancient Greece and Rome, then you are entering a dark period. But not everyone called it the Dark Ages. It was like Petrarch was the famous Italian poet who was like, "This is a dark period," and it kind of
yeah,
stuck. It just kind of
yeah,
stuck.
yeah.
Yeah, but he was
So it's yeah,
obsessed.
because that's like a negative thing to call it that, and so
Of
maybe it
course.
wasn't necessarily as terrible as
No,
people would have it
that's the
believe.
thing. It wasn't. I mean, you have eyeglasses were invented then. The first printing press was at the tail end of it. Universities were invented then. But think
Yeah,
about it. For centuries, you have the style and architecture of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and now you're consciously saying we have to make our own identity. That's super hard.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, the it is all that stuff is that period of time is like one of the more interesting too. It's
Oh yeah, they also believed unicorns existed and centaurs, which who knows, maybe they did. But look up a
yeah.
medieval bestiary, you would love it. You would see all the things that they were like, no, this thing's
Oh,
here.
nice.
You'll see this in the deep
No,
woods over there.
I kind of like yeah, like that idea of with that art of that they don't want to completely mimic God. That's kind of awesome. That's
Yeah.
like
Oh
I
yeah.
never had heard that, but so that's funny too because then the Renaissance they're like, let's just mimic God. Who
Yeah,
cares?
100%. What happened was during that time, they were like, you know what? We need to go back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome because it is our history, which is really
Yeah,
cool. So then what happens is you start having babies look the way they normally look. You have Da Vinci being allowed to dissect cadavers, killed criminals, executed criminals, which was banned during the medieval period because the
yeah.
body was, it was you couldn't like desecrate it. So now he's allowed to do that again. That they're allowed to do that. So, but with that, styles change in the visual arts. I could talk about this all day, man. I hope you're not. I
No,
love this stuff.
well, it's fun because this is like literally your expertise. So we're picking up some good like we just get you talking and then
Oh, thank you.
yeah. So so for one thing, everyone, yeah, we got 25 people watching. Thanks everyone for being here. This has
Thank
been a
you.
great interview. Robert's great, very smart and knows a bunch. I think those are potentially two different things, but kind of the same thing. But so it's been fun, yeah, talking. We talked a little bit about New York City. If you missed that, go back
That
and
was
check that out.
interesting.
Yeah, but we've been talking about these, and we talk about Wirehead, which is his other book, which is great. that
Yeah,
I've read,
Norwell's
that
a
I'm
fan of
huge
that. I'm
of.
honored.
Yeah, and so everyone, I don't know if you can track down Wirehead. I like keep an eye out. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward
yeah.
to
Well,
read it. I
hoping
just
maybe in Halloween, maybe I have to work that out and make it official with Pete and everything until he ever, he really gives me the go ahead on that. So, but I know he's interested.
nice. Yeah, this is kind of random, but I did that local convention last weekend, and it's just local, so there's only like 3 or 4 actual comic people, and it's a lot of like arts, cool art market kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
even the people coming in, not all of them want comics, but I did like okay. It was funny. It was like pretty slow, but I actually did like okay in sales. Like made
That's
actually
great.
like a decent little chunk of change or whatever. And I did notice, so I'm like, oh, this is some in-person like blind sales data. And I'm like, so what are the books what book of mine like quote unquote sells the most? And it was
Yeah.
Nosferatu. It was the hardcover of Nosferatu,
Oh,
marked at $40. So
you did
not
a
even
you
like
did a
cheap.
Nosferatu?
Yeah. I did a Nosferatu in 2022, which was a 100-year anniversary of the silent film.
Oh,
And
wow. I want
and
to
I
check
just
that out.
adapted it. Yeah. I mean, you'd like it. It's kind of up your alley a
Please
little bit.
send me the link to that. Do you have any available or no?
Well, not exactly, but that's where I'm going is like, so I have a few left over, and I mean, maybe get you one of those somehow. We can figure that out. But I think, yeah, for whatever reason, like it has kind of a cool cover design, and it's hardcover, and it's a
Beautiful.
recognizable name a little bit. So
Sure,
people were
sure.
picking it up, they were flipping through it, and yeah, people were like buying it. I'm like, dang. But the
Nice.
other thing is they're making a new Nosferatu movie. It's Robert Eggers.
That's right.
Who,
Yeah, I do enjoy
yeah.
his work.
Yep, I was gonna say you would like him
Yeah.
if you're not. I'm sure you are familiar because he's obsessed with history too. And
Oh, yes, I know. Yeah, I've seen some interviews with him. I was like, oh, I get where he's going.
yeah, and like yeah, all his movies have been cool in a different way. Kind of, been doing different things. And
Oh, sure.
I'm like, man, Nosferatu. I definitely am looking forward to seeing whatever he's got going. But that comes out supposedly later this year, like December 2024.
Really?
His new Nosferatu comes out, so I'm like, I'm definitely gonna do a re-release of Nosferatu with a new cover, and just see that again. We'll see. Like maybe it's just 100 because everyone's like, I mean, yeah, 100 sales would be nice. Like people are like, I already bought it, but yeah, a new cover. I'm like, okay, but maybe it's like you never know. I'm like, maybe freaking Robert Eggers would see it and like tell his people or something.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah, so 2024, this is my motto for 2024 is 2024, the year of opening doors. Like that's my
Yeah, I like
cheesy,
that.
visual novel thing. Or like vision
Absolutely.
board manifesting.
Totally.
Yeah. Paul Bocchetta, still need to grab a copy of Nosferatu. Yeah, it's 'cause that's the thing. There's only a few left, and they're on my eBay, and they're marked up because they're so rare. But so that's I'm like,
Oh, man,
don't
okay.
even. I kind of feel bad, almost like there. But whatever, like there'll be a reprint, so everyone will
Okay.
catch up.
Oh, well, keep me posted for sure.
Yeah. Benjamin Soto's here. What's up, man? Dear
What's
man,
up, Ben?
Alex BRB. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Yeah, 25 people. It's fun seeing everyone hanging out.
Tremendous.
I was gonna. Oh, so Blood Realm though is the book of the hour. It's at 100.
Hmm.
I'm always nervous to update it. I wonder if we have got any backers as we've been talking, which would be great.
I believe we
This is
did.
like we did.
Yeah, I saw a little thing on my phone, so I
Okay,
think
okay,
we
okay.
may have.
Cool, cool. Because my thing is,
The
I'm gonna do
pressure
it.
of it.
But so now, if it doesn't go up, then we accidentally killed an angel. Oh, it did go up though.
Well, two.
So
Holy smokes.
yeah, so we saved an angel, like an angel and a puppy. They were all on the line. They would have died not
Ooh.
by our hand, but just through karma.
So you didn't
And
let me know that was what was at stake. You should have
yeah,
led with that first. Then I would have went, wait.
yeah. No, yeah, it's funny. I legit subscribe to this what do you call it, like superstition, and I was on Von Coleman's channel, and he was just refreshing it every literally every 30 seconds, and I'm
Oh
like,
goodness.
Vaughn, stop! What are you doing? It's not
Yes.
going up. He's like, what? I'm like, you gotta wait. You can only
Yes, yes,
refresh it
yes.
when it goes up.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, Vaughn, you just killed 50 angels in my name, you bastard.
50.
How am I gonna work off this karmic debt now?
That's heavy weight. That's a heavy weight, my
Yeah,
friend.
I was like legit mad, and then I had to apologize later. I'm sorry, I got worked up, Vaughn, in my own head about my own superstition.
Holy smokes. That's crazy.
But yeah, cool. So it's ticking towards 7K. The goal,
Getting there.
10,000 with plenty of time. Kind of a bit of a smash hit of a book. It definitely has some legs behind it. Reaching
Thank you.
issue 18. A pillar of Alterna, I've been saying. Also a good, like, there's various books that you could pair this with. Like, it pairs well with King Cryptid as, like, the two big Alterna long, like, cool books. And then it pairs cool with Fiendish as, like, a double feature. These
Cool.
dark fantasy style stories. And yeah, and then to even identify of, like, what is the vibe or whatever, like, mentioning Conan did help me. I'm like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
this is like Conan, like a lot. Like
Right.
Conan has like an epic lore too, epic
Oh, yeah.
mythology that I've heard a little bit about. That sounds really cool.
I adore his writing. He's just Robert E. Howard is just incredible. Incredible.
Yeah,
Way
that's
ahead of his
cool.
time.
Yeah, I've listened to a few Conan book on tapes while I draw, and they are awesome. They're just
Oh,
like
it's the way
it is fun because it's like this is like better than this is better than like putting Game of Thrones on the TV or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's like so cool. The world,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun when the world is just like really like realized, and that kind of goes a little bit with like the simplicity is like if you have a really well realized world, that sometimes that doesn't mean that you have to like regurgitate it to the audience so they know everything. It's more
Right.
just like you know every little thing, so it kind of can make it almost more simple.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
and Conan's like that sometimes. Like
oh, sure, absolutely. And and the whole thing with Blood Run was that it started out with a simple 3-page kind of story. Excuse me, a 3-page, 3-issue story, and it kind of just was building organically, slowly and slowly. More and more issues in the world got bigger and bigger. So, and now we're at this. This is the biggest miniseries that has ever been released. Like I said, 32 pages, and it's 6 issues. The Dawn of the Wolf miniseries. If you
Yeah.
jump in, you could literally start with this miniseries because this is the first chronologically. In
Oh, cool.
chronologically speaking, in the timeline.
yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
But
I kind of have that with Earthbound too, where it's like I'm like you can actually start with Grand Prix if you want, but sometimes I almost wonder if I should even say that because some people are like, wait, what, why? Like, I don't know. When this is mine, it's different with Earthbound too, but with Earthbound, what I say is like this is like Indiana Jones movies rather than Star Wars movies. Like you could read them in any order, but there's like
Yeah.
the same characters and stuff.
Oh, sure. I'm also, and Ben mentioned Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that is Tolkien. I always tell people he's like Uncle Tolkien to us who love fantasy. And,
Yeah,
he was a huge influence on me. The Hobbit was a big one too. And just this fully realized world with a language,
Yeah.
it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. And for me personally, Hobbit was always the one I favored the most. I love reading that. Even to this
Cool.
day as an adult, I just love it.
What I heard about him that I'm not sure. I mean, I've seen the movies and read the books when I was a kid. I love them too, but maybe not super like not in my bones or whatever. But people say that it's almost fantasies like pre-token, post-token, where and then they're like, well, what is because post-token is like Dungeons and Dragons, almost like
Sure, yeah.
elves, orcs, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, what was it like pre-token? And there's some like kind of weird examples of what fantasy was like before that.
Yeah.
And so, and then if you go back further, I don't know if it is like then that gets into some of what you're talking about of like some myths and old
Oh, yeah.
stories. And it does like I don't know like yeah like whatever if it's the various mythologies they'll have like orcs or elves or whatever, but it's like yeah it's like different than what we're used to in like Dungeons and Dragons fantasy kind of thing.
That's awesome. Oh, cool, Paul. I didn't know that. Oh, that's great. So Chiron Morvell's the main character in this miniseries. So he says he's in the running to be Adam Miller's Iron Age icon
Oh,
card set.
nice.
And I
That is
saw
cool.
Chiron there. I was like, oh, I spy a warrior of light.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
He's in the running. Oh, meaning in the
Everyone,
running.
yeah,
Oh,
think
okay.
about voting for that if any.
Yeah,
I
please.
haven't voted yet. I can because I backed it. I think he sends you like a link if you backed it, but I haven't voted. But so maybe I'll vote for Chiron.
Yeah.
Nice. WizKid's in it too, so then we'd both be in the Iron Age set.
Oh,
But the Iron
very
Age set's
cool.
cool too. That's like a fun project, and Adam's a great guy, so
That's
everyone keep
awesome.
your eye on that one.
Tremendous.
Yeah, so we can kind of start wrapping up here.
Sure.
23 people watching. Thanks for being here, and we can chat again. You know, like I want to keep an eye on the campaign. If you
Sure.
need any help closing out or whatever, and it'll still be a ways off, but
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
see where
No
it's at
problem
and
with that.
everything. But
Sure.
yeah,
That'd be amazing.
yeah. Let's just kind of stay in touch and everything. But it's definitely good to connect and good to chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and everyone, yeah, Robert Geronimo making the rounds. It's fun that yeah, launching Blood Realm is getting you a little more on the stream, so people can. I think people kind of know who you are and stuff.
Oh.
But that's nice for people to meet you and get to know you a little bit.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, sure. That's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Hail the Lord said rad stream. Yeah, this
Oh,
was a
great,
good one.
man.
You know what? Like not to like as we're streaming, start talking about the streams like meta or whatever, but or maybe this would be like a private like. But I mean, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, it was actually sometimes if you stream a promotional stream, it can be like too much promotion, or it can
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
get boring if you're just talking about the book or whatever.
I hear you.
So you got to find that balance, and I think we did. We did this.
I would say. I would
yeah.
say. Yeah, we hit some really cool stuff. And once you get me talking history, that's it. What book?
I know, yeah. I kind of want to keep talking. Maybe not tonight, but like we'll chat again at some point. We'll keep this conversation going.
Oh, totally. I would love that.
Yeah, nice. Cool. All right, everyone. Yeah, thanks, chat, for being here. And yeah, Blood Realm. I'm glad we got 2 backers. There'll be more, and just getting eyes on it. Sometimes people see it, digest it, know it's out there.
Sure.
But this one, yeah, like different ones will feel different, but it has a good feeling when it's like 18 issues. This is
Yeah.
a thing. You could say this is a phenomenon, you know.
Oh, thank you.
And people can like join in, jump in at any point.
Yeah.
So yeah, and one last little shout out to Wirehead, which is an amazing, cool thing.
Oh, Captain Goodnight. What's up, Captain Goodnight?
Oh yeah, he says Blood Realm numbers 10 through 12 is a bit of a slasher. Nice, that's awesome.
Yes, thank you. Oh, and Bob says, yeah, issues. So the back issue bundle, Pete has the missing issues because they are what he considers reader copies. So he didn't want me to sell copies that may have a bend or anything like that. I have total mint copies. So if you want to get those other ones that may be missing, I think the only ones that are missing is issue, I believe it's 2 and 3. Everything else is there.
Okay.
Yeah. So but if you're seeing 4 to 6 not there, it's because it's collected in the Giant. That's in the back issue bundle. If you have any questions, Bob, just let me know.
Cool. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds good. Captain Goodnight says, besides Nosferatu, you might like Foreign Agent. Yeah, those are my books. So he's
Cool.
He's making us be friends. He's like
I like
suggesting-
it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, stick around just for a second. We'll say hi behind the scenes too. But everyone,
Sure.
thank you. And I'm gonna
Thank you,
end the
everybody.
stream now. Yeah.